Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this month's MedCan online seminar. My name is Tanya Haas, and I am the Health and Wellness Writer here at MedCan. We have an amazing show for you today, so we're so happy that you joined us on your lunch hour. The information in this seminar is for educational and information purposes only and is neither intended to be relied upon nor to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So we encourage you to give us a call with the numbers that we provide at the end of the presentation, or send us an email if you'd like to book an appointment with Leslie or one of our other registered dietitians here at MedCan. Now, with all that being said, I'm really excited to introduce our presenter. You probably recognize her face if you read the Globe and Mail or if you've seen her books at your local bookstore. Leslie has years of experience that have put her at the top of the field, whether she's working one-on-one with clients, writing her bestsellers, or consulting with the media. Leslie is able to translate the latest and often complicated nutrition and health information into diet advice that's easy to understand and easy to follow. And she's not about gimmicks or fads, and she's a science-based nutritional expert who helps people follow healthier lifestyle. She is a registered dietitian. She was educated at the University of British Columbia, University of Toronto, and interned at St. Michael's Hospital. And right now she's at MedCan, back at MedCan. We're so happy to have her back. And she's the Director of Food and Nutrition here. She will probably be mentioning a few things that she does here, but how about we jump right to it, Leslie? The mic over to you.
Thank you, Tanya. That's wonderful. And thank you all for taking time out of your day, your lunch, to come and listen to this topic, which I think many people might think is, oh, I already know that. Oh, I don't want to hear that information. I just want to enjoy the holidays. Well, I'm going to make it so that you can enjoy it. But certainly at a time of year when it seems very acceptable to eat a shortbread cookie or a chocolate truffle for breakfast, we're going to talk about how to prevent totally derailing your diet and your calorie intake this holiday season. I'm going to start by first talking about a few holiday eating perceptions. Are they true? Are they not true? Then I'll give very specific strategies to help prevent overeating at holiday parties and big holiday meals as well. And if you like to do a lot of entertaining, I'm going to share with you some easy ingredient substitutions that can not only save calories but also boost the nutritional value of your holiday foods. And of course, as Tanya mentioned, there's going to be time at the end for questions. But it's also an opportunity if for any of you to share some strategies that you've used that have helped you manage your food intake during this busy time of year. I'd love to hear them. All right. For many of us, food-centered holiday get-togethers are just getting underway, and they're going to continue through New Year's Day. And while some people really look forward to indulging in mashed potatoes, stuffing, shortbread, or latkes, others are really concerned about piling on extra calories, especially after a year of working hard at improving their diet. In fact, many of my private practice clients here at MedCan are now asking for advice for this time of year, and that's especially true for people who have successfully lost weight and don't want to put any of it back on. But let's face it, I know that most of us know that spiked eggnog, mini sausage rolls, turkey stuffing, and so on, they're not diet foods. And if you don't know this, you're going to find hundreds and hundreds of pages of holiday eating advice on the internet, telling you to eat this, not that, fill your plate with vegetables first, and so on. We've heard this all before. I'm not saying at all that this is bad advice. In fact, I've given it over and over again to my clients. But the truth is, many people do want eating strategies for this time of year. And it's very true that a month's worth of overeating can definitely spell trouble on the bathroom scale come January 1st. And I'm sure that's why many of you out there are listening in today. And even if you already know many of the strategies I'm going to talk about, it's always a good reminder to hear them again just as the season is starting. Today, though, I want to talk about the to-dos versus the don't-dos. I don't want to tell you to lay off the fruitcake or the eggnog. Instead, I want to tell you really how I, as a dietitian, handles this season full of chocolate and high-fat hors d'oeuvres. First, though, let's break down some holiday eating myths. And I'm sure you've heard this before. The average person gains 5 pounds over the holiday season. True or false? You might be thinking your answer right now. The reality is that holiday weight gain is actually quite slight. According to one study, and this was published a few years ago in the New England Journal of Medicine, the average adult gains only 1 pound during the winter holiday season. So that's the good news. The bad news is that this extra weight does tend to accumulate year after year and can contribute to that so-called middle-age spread. Other research has shown that people that enter the holiday season who are already overweight do tend to gain a little bit more. But really, holiday eating is just a small piece in a much bigger picture. You know, I always say to my clients, it's what you do from January through November that really determines your weight. And even though holiday weight gain is less than you often hear about, you still do need to make careful choices and exercise portion control to minimize the damage. Here's something else, kind of a fun fact, or not. It's the turkey that makes you feel so tired, so drowsy after eating. True or false? Well, studies have linked an amino acid, which is a building block of protein in turkey, one called tryptophan, to a feeling of drowsiness. But in order to achieve this effect, you have to consume tryptophan all by itself and on an empty stomach. So it's pretty unlikely that tryptophan in a turkey dinner is going to make you want to doze off. Feeling sleepy is more likely due to the energy that your body requires to digest a big meal. And also we've got to consider the wine. So the sedating effect of alcohol that accompanies the meal can also want to make you take a nap after eating. And finally, this is what many people think. Is it true or false? I have to give up my favorite holiday foods to avoid gaining weight this season. Some people may, depending on how much they eat of them, but this isn't true. And passing up your favorite treats, I think, will only make you feel deprived and more likely to binge later on. So instead, I encourage my clients that ask for advice to sample the foods that you really love. But don't blow your extra calories on foods you're not crazy about. Save the calories for the foods you really, really like. A great strategy, too, is to really, if you're at a party or a dinner, I would just pass on those everyday treats, those foods, you know, those standard foods you can have any time of the year, like cheese and crackers or dip, salsa and chips or nuts. So have something special. Make those extra calories worth it. Okay, so let's move on to strategies for holiday parties. First of all, it's really important to have a plan of attack. And so a very good strategy, if you're going to a lot of cocktail parties this season, decide in advance to limit your intake. And what I mean by that is decide how many hors d'oeuvres you're going to have, how many cookies you'll eat, determine if you're going to allow yourself to have one cocktail or two. If you do that, that's really going to lower the odds of overeating at the party. If you don't have a predetermined plan, you'll be far more likely to cave into temptation or eat whatever looks good. So think about it in advance. If dinner follows a cocktail party, you may decide to skip the hors d'oeuvres altogether, and we'll come to hors d'oeuvres in a minute. And if you find yourself constantly surrounded by holiday foods at the office, at parties, even at home, you may decide, and some people do, to allow yourself a one-day only policy, be it a cookie, a chocolate, or something, some treat a day. And if you're not tempted one day, skip your treat, but just don't double up the next day. And I really find this all year round with my clients. You know, a lot of my clients are trying to lose weight, and so I let them have a treat once a week. And I find if you give yourself permission to indulge a little, you'll be far less likely to overeat and far less likely to fall into that, you know, what the hell, I've blown it anyway, I may as well just eat whatever I want now. So being positive about it and giving yourself permission versus telling yourself, well, I can't have this, I shouldn't eat that, makes a big difference in helping you not only eat less, but get back on track right away. Restaurant menus, if you've got a lot of lunches, a lot of work lunches this season, go online, check out the menu in advance. It may or may not have nutrition information, that's just fine, but decide what you're going to order in advance so you just, again, don't fall prey to your mood once you get there. We've all heard this, but I think it's advice worth repeating. Don't arrive at a party really hungry. Eat something before you go. And I generally recommend 1 hour before you go to an event, have a protein-rich snack to rein in your appetite. And that might be a small handful of nuts. It might be yogurt and fruit. It could be a latte even, half a protein bar. Even for some people, it's half a turkey sandwich. Even eating a bowl of vegetable soup, and I know that doesn't have a lot of protein in it, might be a bowl of lentil soup, can help you eat less at a party. What you should not do is skip breakfast or lunch in order to save up calories in anticipation of a holiday party or meal. That's only going to make you far more likely to arrive hungry and definitely overeat. You can, though, even though you shouldn't skip meals, and I often advise my clients this, you can make small tweaks or compromises at other meals during a day. So, for example, if you know you've got a big party coming up that evening, you might decide, you know what, I'm going to skip my usual starch at lunch and I'll just have protein and vegetables. Or at breakfast, I usually put half a cup of granola in my yogurt and blueberries. I think I'll skip the granola and just have the protein-packed Greek yogurt and the fruit. So those are little things you can do that won't affect you, it won't make you, be really hungry come party time. Okay, let's talk about hors d'oeuvres. You need to be choosy. Well, first of all, you've already decided how many you might have. But lower calorie choices include smoked salmon on little pieces of pumpernickel, shrimp cocktail with shrimps with cocktail sauce, chicken satay, which is high in protein, sushi, cold spring rolls are good choices. If you're entertaining at home, you might serve whole grain crackers with a vegetable antipasto instead of lots of cheese. Fruit kebabs is becoming a popular hors d'oeuvre to serve at home. And of course, you can always serve raw vegetables with bean dips, whether it's a black bean dip, hummus, or tzatziki. So if you look at the calories there, I'm not sure if you're surprised, but many people are surprised to say, wow, had no idea that large shrimp with cocktail sauce, only 57 calories. It's a really low calorie and filling high protein choice. Chicken satay, that number there, that's for about 1.5 ounces of chicken with some peanut sauce. There's your crackers with antipasto. And of course your baby carrots with hummus, but I'll admit that's a little boring, so I might vary up your menu a little bit. What you might want to limit, you don't have to stay away from, but the not so great choices are anything fried or deep fried, like egg rolls, spring rolls, breaded shrimp. They're all high in calories. So are puff pastry and phyllo wrapped hors d'oeuvres. And of course, cheese stuffed anything will be higher in fat and calories. So there you've got some kind of traditional hors d'oeuvres you'll see at parties. Swedish meatballs can be high in fat and calories. Jalapeno poppers are deep fried and stuffed with cheese. Some stuffed pastries and a mini quiche. 2 little mini quiche have about 130 calories. That may not sound like a lot of calories, but consider that it takes as many as 27 minutes of brisk walking to burn off 130 calories. I think it's important to, when you're at a party, to manage your environment as well. It'll be much easier to stick to your party plan if you don't stand next to the food table where there's lots of trays of tempting foods. That advice goes for the office as well. Make a point of not hanging around the lunchroom. That can be often laden with holiday baked goods and chocolate. Okay, let's look at calories and alcohol. So the first thing I always recommend at parties is to limit yourself to no more than 1 alcoholic drink per hour. And that's because it takes 1 hour for your liver to metabolize the alcohol in one standard drink, which, by the way, is 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of liquor. If you drink more frequently than 1 drink per hour, that's going to result in a higher blood alcohol concentration. So one thing to be really mindful of, don't let servers keep refilling a half-empty glass. Otherwise, you'll lose track of how many drinks you have. To slow your pace, I'm sure you've heard this, but I have many clients who do this on a regular basis. Alternate alcoholic drinks with water or club soda. And alcohol is not just a source of extra calories. It also lowers your willpower to make healthy choices and to follow through with your plan. So where the calories are coming from, you see a list there. We'll go through them more in a minute. So alcohol itself, there's no sugar and alcohol. It doesn't have carbohydrate or fat. It's the alcohol itself that's giving you calories. And 1 gram of pure alcohol or ethanol delivers roughly 7 calories. That's double the amount, almost double the amount of the 4 calories found in a gram of protein. So for example, 5 ounces of wine or 1.5 ounces of spirits have 14 grams of alcohol. Once you add in mixers like juice or pop, cream, of course the calories really go up. So here you see calories. If you were to make a homemade eggnog punch, and the ingredients would be cream, egg, sugar, rum, that can have as many as 400 calories per serving. This is a regular eggnog. This is actually President's Choice. This is President's Choice regular eggnog. Others you'll find Nielsen has a little less. Eggnog Light is lower in fat. It's got fewer calories. And I wouldn't. A lot of people like to dilute their eggnog with skim milk, so they're not getting as many calories, but they get the flavor. And there you see champagne is one of the lowest calorie drinks, partly because it's served in a small serving as well. Vodka, soda, and a typical glass of red or white wine has about 120 calories. Okay, let's move on to the big meal. So it's very possible that after 1 day of feasting, you're going to be up 3, maybe some people even 5 pounds on the scale the next morning. This is mostly water weight. When you eat a large quantity of food, you also take in a lot of carbohydrate. Think about the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, the pie, the sweets, and sodium. And that all causes water retention. And it can take, if you get right back on track the next day, it can take up to 2 days for your body to normalize and get rid of that extra fluid. But I wanted to show you, some people, it can consume as many as 5,000 calories over the entire day. So, and that starts with a bigger breakfast, you know, bacon and eggs, etc., and lunch, and then snack food. So I haven't shown you breakfast and lunch on this slide, but you'll see how easy it is to add up. And this isn't particularly crazy either, but this comes to a total of almost 3,050 calories. 1 pound of body fat, theoretically, it takes about consuming an additional 3,500 calories a day. So, and actually I just wrote about this column not too long ago after Thanksgiving for the Globe and Mail, but it does take more than 1 day of overeating to actually gain body fat. So eating more calories than your body needs in one sitting, which is clearly this meal, or over the course of the meal, is going to result in some of those calories being tucked away as body fat, but not enough to move the needle on the scale. And you have to really, really overeat to do that. And here's why. It's that theoretical 1 pound of body fat contains roughly 3,500 calories. So that means in order to gain a pound of fat, you'd have to eat 3,500 calories above and beyond what you would normally eat in the course of a day. So it takes a lot of extra calories to gain body fat. But if you keep this up day after day, lingering leftovers, that kind of thing, it could be very easy. So many of the strategies we talked about for parties also apply to big holiday meals, but here are some other tips to share. If you know you've got a big family meal, I really recommend keeping breakfast and lunch simple and non-indulgent. Fruit and yogurt, just fruit and some grains, something that's not rich and fatty. Save your calories for the meal. Limit taste tests, but certainly when I'm cooking, I definitely want the meal I serve to impress my guests, but I don't need to taste it every few minutes at the expense of who knows how many extra calories I've consumed. We know that when we're doing little taste tests, we're nibbling in the kitchen, that can easily amount to a meal's worth of calories. So keep the taste tests to a limit. The other thing I think is important, and I hear this a lot from clients, we've got to be assertive and feel comfortable managing those people around us that push food. Because well-meaning as they are, food pushers can really throw you off plan. So if you don't want more food or you don't want another drink, graciously tell your host, no thank you, I've had enough, it was delicious. You don't need to explain any further. Be firm if you need to. I'm sure that your mother or your grandmother or your aunt already knows you love their cooking. and your body will thank you for being assertive. Be the slowest eater. Be the last to start and the last to start and the last to finish. Remember, it takes 20 minutes for your brain to realize you've had enough to eat, for those hormones in your gut to get to your brain to tell you to stop eating. So I often, something that's good to get into the practice of all the time is to gauge your hunger level at the start of a meal and halfway through. And your goal is to stop eating at level 5. And here's what that means. So at a level 5 on the hunger scale means you no longer feel hungry. You feel satisfied, but you don't feel full. If you were to get to number 7, that means you feel full and uncomfortable. Your waistband feels a little tighter. And if you reach number 8, which is the top of the scale, you feel stuffed and bloated. You know, that real Thanksgiving Day full, which could happen this time of year. So number 5, you feel satisfied, not full, is where you want to be. And if this is relevant for you, deal with the leftovers, you know, so that not lingering around for, you know, the days between, if you're off work for a week or so. You might package leftover party snacks like nuts, chips, pretzels into snack-sized bags, and limit yourself to 1 a day. If you don't want leftover sweets around from a party or a meal, bake only what you're going to need, or freeze the leftovers to serve at another time. Or I have some clients who like to make little dessert bags for their guests to take home. I'm quite sure, because I hear this regularly from clients, that your coworkers do not need and do not want extra cookies piling up at the office. So don't take those leftovers to work. Okay, let's move on. For those of you who do a lot of entertaining at home and cook, here's a few strategies to make some recipes healthier. So the first one is cutting back on sugar. Many baking recipes absolutely depend on sugar for texture and moisture, as well as taste. But in most recipes, you can reduce the amount of sugar you use by up to 1/2. And if you just cut out 1/4 of a cup of sugar, that's 195 calories that's gone. Another trick to cut refined sugar is to swap it for natural sugars and pureed fruit. So you can replace up to 50% of sugar with applesauce or pureed banana, pureed pear. Some people use dried dates that have been pureed with water. That works really well in chocolate type recipes. But since fruit has a high water content, you'll probably need to reduce the liquid in the recipe, but usually by 1/4 of a cup. When you add fruit to recipes, you're getting more fiber, more vitamins and minerals, and obviously less sugar and less calories. You can also save fat calories in many recipes. Again, applesauce, mashed bananas, and I'm sure many of you have done this in the past. That can replace up to half of the oil or butter that's called for in muffin and loaf recipes. That's an easy strategy, and the recipes always turn out great. If you can't tell the difference when you replace half the fat, try replacing more next time. The other thing, you'll save a lot of fat, particularly saturated fat, the type that raises blood cholesterol and calories, if you substitute evaporated skim milk for heavy cream in certain cake, scone, and biscuit recipes. That works well, and you can replace evaporated skim milk for cream in a 1-to-1 ratio. Some people want to remove the fat and the cholesterol from eggs, so obviously you can replace 1 egg with 2 egg whites or a 1/4 cup of liquid egg whites. If you want vegan egg whites, in quotes I'd say that, the recipe is 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed mixed with 3 tablespoons of water. Let that sit for 5 to 10 minutes until the mixture has a thick white consistency. And there you've got a vegan egg for a recipe. Lots of people do this. Okay, healthier fats. Avocado is a great replacement for butter and baked goods. You can replace half the butter that's called for in recipes with an equal amount of pureed or mashed ripe banana. Some people replace all of the butter with avocado. It's got a very creamy consistency, so it provides texture. Plus, of course, you're getting plenty of those heart-healthy monounsaturated fats, lots of fiber, lots of folate and potassium. in avocados for fewer calories. You see there that half a cup of pureed avocado has 184 calories, half a cup of butter, 814. So you're saving a lot of calories and adding a lot of nutrition. You can also replace coconut oil for shortening. Both fats are solid at room temperature, and so they work really well in pie crusts and cookies. Coconut oil, however, doesn't have the man-made partially hydrogenated oils, which are a source of trans fat that some brands of shortening have. Not all shortening has trans fats, but some do. Coconut oil, yes, it is high in saturated fat for sure, but it doesn't raise your LDL, the bad blood cholesterol, to the same extent that saturated fat in butter does. And it also contains certain fats called medium chain triglycerides. These are fats that maybe researchers think promote satiety and help increase calorie burning in the body. And for baking, you can substitute coconut oil 1-for-1 for shortening. All right, and lastly, I'm just going to talk about all-purpose flour. Some people want to get the flour down, whether it's just to reduce wheat or gluten. So a couple strategies here. To add fiber, protein, and plenty of magnesium, which is a mineral that helps stabilize your blood sugar. It helps to lower blood pressure. You can substitute pureed black beans or pureed beans for flour in a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, you probably won't replace all of the flour in a recipe, but you might try replacing half of it. This works really well if you're making brownies. Black beans are great in brownies. All beans are, actually. So that's a great way to boost the nutrition. If you want to cut out gluten in a recipe and reduce carbs and add protein at the same time, as well as healthy fats, vitamin E, substitute almond flour or almond meal for all-purpose flour in baked good recipes. You can buy it already ground. Bob's Red Mill sells it. But it's so easy to make your own as well. All you need to do is grind raw blanched almonds into a fine flour, and you do that in your food processor. So almond flour works well in cakes, muffins, loaves, and some cookie recipes, not all. You will, though, need to use slightly more of a leavening agent like baking powder or baking soda, since almond flour is heavier than wheat flour. And depending on your recipe, too, you may need to use a binder that you can buy, like xanthan gum. And again, Bob's Red Mill sells that as well. Okay, we're going to take questions in a minute. So a couple of last points. For those of you who already know that you've got, you're going to have a jam-packed social calendar over the next few weeks, you might also consider keeping a food diary now and not waiting to start tracking your food intake until January. The best time to do this is now, when you really need to be mindful of what and how much you're eating. So when you write down what you eat, or better yet, what you plan to eat for the day, that's going to provide awareness and prevent mindless eating. And it really keeps you focused on your good intentions not to overeat. And I often tell my clients in my private practice, when they're filling out their food diary, they do so much better when they fill it in one day in advance. They think about their day, they think about the party they're going to, and they map it out as best they can. Try to fit in some exercise. I know we're all super busy this time of year, but even a 15-minute run, power walk on the treadmill or the elliptical trainer burns calories. It does reduce your appetite, so it's a great thing to do if you can do it in the afternoon, and it strengthens your willpower. It really does, to stick to your eating plan. But most of all, enjoy. The December holidays come once a year, and I really truly believe that if you indulge moderately and mindfully, you'll start the new year in great shape and ready to return to your usual healthy eating routine. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions, whether they have to do with holiday eating or nutrition in general.
Okay. Thank you so much, Leslie. Now, before we go to the questions, I'm just going to talk a little bit about nutrition at MedCan. So the nutrition at MedCan offers 3 streams of nutrition programs. So Leslie Beck offers one-on-one nutrition coaching programs with personalized meal plans. And so if you'd like to talk to Leslie about her strategies and what she can offer you, please contact Casey at the number on your screen, 416-862-1553, or Leslie Beck Nutrition at medcan.com. And Medcan also offers 2 other streams of nutrition programs with our team of registered dietitians. Those are between medical nutrition advice, so if you're managing a certain condition, or if you want to focus on lifestyle for you're feeling already healthy but you want to improve your performance or your sports nutrition, those might be the right program for you, and that information is also on your screen. So please let us know if you have any questions, and we can follow up with you later on. So we do have a few questions, Leslie, so I'm going to ask the first question is regarding night eating. And what happens if you come back from a party and you've eaten a lot, but then you suddenly are craving something at 11 o'clock? What do you do?
Well, I think first of all, ask yourself, are you hungry? Is it hunger? Is it stomach hunger? Your stomach's growling a little bit, or is it mouth hunger? You just feel like eating. So think about that first before you make a decision to actually go and eat. If you're not hungry, then manage your environment, leave the kitchen, and go do something else to distract yourself, because cravings do pass. Usually within 20 minutes you've forgotten about it and you can move on to something else. If you are truly hungry, because maybe you didn't have enough to eat at the cocktail party, you just had a few hors d'oeuvres, and then I would have just something very small, maybe 100 calories, protein rich. Again, it might be Greek yogurt, it might be it could even be a hard-boiled egg in the fridge, I don't know, but just something small so that you're going to be able to sleep at night.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned hors d'oeuvres. Do you have any favorite recipes if you are hosting? You gave us some amazing tips. I know you have some in your books. So you talked about what we can replace, but I think you showed me recently, spiced nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice healthy snack for a cocktail party. Again, you have to watch how much, though, is a sweet and spicy walnut recipe that I actually have on my website. It's really popular. And walnuts, by the way, are the only nut that contain the plant-based omega-3 fat called ALA, or alpha-linolenic acid. So walnuts are a favorite of mine, but that's certainly one. And what else do I do? I'm just trying to think what I do when I entertain. I often, I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Do you offer cheese? I know a lot of people are kind of off the dairy right now,
yeah.
But
you know what? I will. I'll because I know some people like it. I will have some cheese, but I'll have I do often will do salmon or smoked trout. So I have some fish. Always vegetables. Always, because the truth is, even though that sounds, oh, that's boring. That's such a boring appetizer. There's always people who are, that you're entertaining, who really appreciate that, and they want that because they're being careful as well. Mm-hmm. So
okay, great. And then you mentioned, this level 5. Mm-hmm. Some of us attended the Personal Performance Summit, and one of the speakers spoke about eating until you're about 80% full. Mm-hmm. How does one do that? I was eating the other day, and then I stopped myself maybe 10 or 15 minutes into the meal, and I thought, am I full yet? I'm not sure. What are the signs of being a level 5?
So that's an excellent question, because I think what many people do is we stop eating when we feel full. So that feeling of fullness when your stomach is a little bit stretched and maybe a tiny bit uncomfortable is what we've come to associate feeling satisfied with, but it's wrong. And so it takes training, and that's why to realize that, I'm satisfied. I don't feel full, but I'm certainly not hungry. And that's why, you have to practice. And I can send people out. We can include it in the presentation, sort of the whole hunger scale, what level 1 is, all the way to 8 again. But I think that's why you need to practice this right when you sit down to your meal, because then you get to know, oh yeah, I'm a little bit hungry, or I'm a lot hungry. And then halfway through, I don't feel like that anymore, or I could still have another bite. And that's kind of the difference. And then, again, I think I'm done. I think I'm good. But just not getting to full, because so many people I meet, they feel full. Okay, I'm done. Time to move on. Mm-hmm. And it's too late.
Okay, great. Well, I think if people have questions, then they can ask us. You can send their questions to your email there, or we can follow up in other ways. So that's about it. We've addressed all the questions today. So I want to thank everyone again for joining us today with Leslie Beck on this wonderful lunchtime webinar. And we hope to hear your feedback, and hopefully we can do this again in the new year. So thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank you.